Hello, my fellow speakers. This is Brian, the Speaker for the Dead, coming to you with the first real episode of Expanding the Expanse. So part of what I want to do here on these particular shows is just give everybody an opportunity to get together, talk about a particular episode, and really just pick it apart for all the meat that is going to be part of this show. I first want to give you my overall feelings on this first episode, and to give everybody a warning, there will be spoilers in this. So if you have not watched the episode that we're talking about in each one of these, my episodes for my show, go away, watch the episode, then come back and watch the corresponding episode of Expanding the Expanse, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. And while we're doing this, by the way, I have like 2.5 pages of notes on this first episode. But I would request that while we're discussing this, please don't jump ahead. I mean, feel free to go ahead and watch all the episodes you want. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. But when you're commenting on here, please try and keep your comments to the current episode that we're talking about or previous episodes. So if we get to see episode 5 of season 4, you can talk about episode 5 through 1 and whatever. Please don't jump ahead. Don't give spoilers. Don't talk about what's happening in the books at this point and stuff like that, unless it's something we've already seen in the episode that we're talking about. I just ask that so that we're not ruining this for anybody else. I don't want to ruin this for you, and I don't want you to ruin it for anybody else. So let's just agree to do that right off the bat. If I see comments that are coming in like that, I'll probably delete the comment just to prevent spoilers ahead of time for shows that we haven't talked about yet. Now, everybody may have watched the whole season by tomorrow morning, because they dropped this entire season and stuff like that, but we're going to go one by one. So, and then we'll just keep going that way until we get to the end, and then we'll just do a big old roundup. I'll probably do a live stream to commemorate the end of the season, and to give everybody a chance to get together and talk and comment and just kind of tell everybody what our favorite parts are, what we loved the most, what we didn't like, what we'd like to see different, just all that kind of good stuff. So I just want to give you my overall impression for this first episode. Woohoo! It's back! Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. It took a lot just to restrain that till this point in the video. Because it's like, I feel like a little girl. Like he says in Deadpool, I'm so happy I feel like a little girl. Anyway, sorry. If you haven't seen Deadpool, you won't know what I'm talking about. But I loved this. I mean, as many of you know, if you've watched my videos from before, I was a little concerned that when they moved from sci-fi to Amazon, there might be a change in quality. We might not get what we were getting before. Not even close. We're getting the same quality, the same writing, and everybody who was on my videos commenting saying, it's okay, Brian, take a breath. Everybody's moving with it and stuff like that. You were 100% right, and I researched this myself, so they did. They brought everybody over. This is just as good as any of the other episodes, if not better, in this one. Overall impression, I love it. The character development, the realism of these characters, they are just fantastic. They're as good as they ever were, and even better in some ways. It's just that it doesn't feel like they changed networks, which was my concern. I don't know if any of you guys are fans or if you've ever watched the show Last Man Standing with Tim Allen. I like that show. I think it's funny. And, it reminds me of the old Home Improvement days, except just in a different way, and it's funny. But when they moved from ABC to Fox, I thought it was going to be even better. I thought Fox would take that show and just go crazy with it. And the first season where it was on Fox, I felt like there was a marked difference. They lost some of their main cast, replaced them with other people that don't feel like they fit. It just didn't, it wasn't the same. And so I guess that was causing some of my trepidations, because I've seen some of my favorite shows suffer when they were canceled on one network and moved to another. Don't worry about that one bit. Just as good as it ever was. So at this point, if you have not watched the episode yet, go away, watch the episode, and then come back and join us. So just skip ahead to this time code, which is 5 minutes, 36 seconds. So if you stay here after this, this episode's going to get spoiled for you. And so fair warning, you've been warned. So let's start. At the beginning of this episode, we find that they do a recap. We find out again that there's over 1,300 gates that have been opened in the gate space, is what I'm calling it. I don't know if that's what they call it in the show. I haven't been paying attention enough, I guess, to know what they're referencing there. But it's the blue area where the main space station is, where they pass through that to get to the other rings. So, and they just kind of do a quick recap of the previous season and a little bit of the history, for those who are just kind of, it's been a while since we got to see the Expanse. What I will tell you is, from what I can see, most everything they used in the trailers came from this episode. There's a few things we haven't seen yet that was in the trailers, and that's fine. But most of that footage, as most of you already know, came from the original, came from those trailers, and so it's a lot of something that we were expecting, which really makes me happy, because then I know that they have not let out a bunch of extra stuff to spoil what's coming. I mean, we know little bits and pieces, but not nearly, nothing that's it's gonna entice us and not go, oh, we've already seen that. So, it's great. So this episode starts out at the ring, the Soul Ring, as they're calling it, for the Soul system. And we see Belter ships, about 5 or 6 Belter ships, trying to run for the ring, trying to get through the ring. And there's UN ships and Martian ships there that are trying to stop them and keep them from going through the gate. They're refugee ships, and most of them get shot down, but at least one of them makes it through and lands on a planet. You don't find out until a little bit later, but we already know that's what's happened in this episode. So the name of the ship, they mention it, but it's like garbled, and I couldn't read it very well inside the ship, and I don't think it really matters. It makes it through, and makes it through one of the other ring gates and escapes. So, and then that scene cuts away to 8 months later, where Holden's on Earth with his mom, and they're talking around a campfire, which I think is cool. Shows, kind of him back at home and stuff, which has, been a long journey for him. And then she gives him a copy of Don Quixote, which I thought was kind of cool. He always wanted to be a knight. She says in some of the original, or some of the earlier seasons, she talks about him wanting to be a knight, and I just thought, this is perfect for him, tilting at windmills. This is what Holden does. Gives you a real insight into his character, that he kind of sees himself that way, as the knight that tilts at windmills. So we see Miller show up at this point, and apologize for looking at my notes, but I want to make sure that I'm not jumping around all over the place. So we see Miller appear. Now he's just really kind of referred to as the investigator. All the people know him as Miller, but they kind of just start referring to him as the investigator. Kind of. That's what he's listed as the character for this season. Which kind of makes you feel like he's shifting away from being Miller to something different. At least that was the impression I got. And he shows up, and he's like, and Holden gets this flash in his head of the ring gates and these blue, like the things that we saw around the proto-molecules zooming towards a planet. And he gets this vision, and then Miller shows up, and he's like, he says, yeah, it's a real turd floater. And Holden's response is just this, yep, always got the words, don't you, Mel? You know, just I don't know. Their interactions always made me laugh and stuff like that, because you can just tell they're kind of opposites, similar but opposite. He's the clean cut, you know, night guy, and Miller's just this hardened ruffian, you know, who was an ex-cop. But anyway, and he keeps asking him when they can go through the ring. He's like really fixated on this. When can we go through the ring? We got to move on to the next clue in the case. We got to keep, you know, hey, well, we're not going there. We're going to New York. Well, what's in New York? You know, and it's just this whole dialogue happens, and I won't do it verbatim and stuff, but that interaction is really interesting because of how fixated he seems on getting to the ring. He needs a ride. He wants to go to the ring. He wants to go to the ring. That's really all of his main thought, is just go to the ring, go to the ring, go to the ring. So, and then we see in the next scene, probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing, just because it's so relatable. We see Holden and his family talking to Naomi on the ship. She didn't come down. She didn't want to go through the gravity drugs. I don't think he wanted her to. Thought it'd be hard on her. And we see the dad's like, hey, why didn't you come down? I'm quite the dancer, you know, and it's just this amazingly awkward moment. It really is fantastic, you know, because we've all had that moment. Or, you know, I don't know anybody who hasn't had that awkward moment where you're introducing your family to your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your fiance or whatever, and you've got that awkward thing where your parents are just making it awful for you. And oh, that was awesome. That was absolutely fantastic. I loved that scene, especially because after, you know, the family's kind of walked away, and Miller's just like, well, that was awful. And Naomi's just like, yeah. It's just so great. That's what I mean about the depth of these characters. The reactions, it's just natural, and it feels just like you're having a conversation with your best friend. It's one of the things I love about this show. Then we see Amos on the ship. Clarissa calls him. For those of you who don't remember, that is Julie Mao's sister. She is the one who takes Ashford out at the last second in the last season. We find that she is on Earth. She has been sentenced to prison for life, along with her father, and they're never going to get out, but she's talking to Amos. She gets one call a month. And you kind of get hint that there may have been some sparks between these two. And we find out that during the trip back, she spent most of her time with Amos in the shop helping to fix equipment, and that she was really good at it, and they really seemed to get along, kind of hit it off. As the, you know, there's kind of a touching moment and a psychotic moment, which is what I love about Amos, is there's always that touch of psycho in every interaction with him. Like the trailer said, Amos is still Amos. It's just fantastic. But so we get an interaction where she asks him about how she was asked to go check out an airlock, and that the security or the safety seals were removed and stuff, so that all she had to do is basically push a button and it would have blown her out into space. And I just thought that was interesting, because she asks him, did you do that? And he says, yeah, if I was looking at a lifetime sentence, I'd want that option. You know, and she starts kind of getting down on herself and saying, you know, I kind of deserve this. Anna said I deserve this. Anna's was the Protestant minister from last season, and whom I really liked her character from last season. I thought she was really cool. But Amos just kind of jumps on her and goes, hey, you know, eat, shit, sleep, blah, 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 live, take everything they give you, give nothing back. In other words, stay strong. This is not going to be easy for you. And that interaction was really cool. And then he wraps it up by saying, you know, and she asks if she can bother him again. He says, sure. And he calls her Peaches as they say goodbye. And I thought that was I don't know. I thought that was kind of sweet. And interactions. See, that's the funny thing with Amos. There's just extremes, and I love that about his character. You know, it's either sweet and kind, or psychotic, or psychotically sweet and kind. It's all over the map, and I love that about his character. Anyway, then we switch to another part. They're still on the Rossi, and I'm sure this is the total guy in me, but I just totally spurged out when they're getting ready, when they're talking about how they've just installed a railgun on the Rossi. I just thought that was fantastic. I'm just like, whoa, yes, they're getting a railgun and stuff, just like the stealth ships had, which I thought was cool, because it's one more thing that makes the Rossi that much cooler. Bigger guns. Anyway, so then we kind of flip from that scene to the UN Security Council, where they're talking about AWSOME is there. Love AWSOME. She's talking with one of the other deputy ministers, and I think it's the Homeland Security Minister, and they're talking about how there's all these colony ships trying to head to the ring, and they're all sitting there waiting. You've got belter ships, refugee ships, you've got Earth colony ships. Everybody is trying to go through the ring. And they start talking about, and they compare it to the gold rush. And AWSOME says this line that is just so good. Just like, you know, you can't control a gold rush. Once it starts, you can't. And during the Yukon gold rush, you know, thousands of people died. And as soon as the body bags got back from the last group, the next group was ready to go, because it's a gold rush. You got to get what you can, when you can, as fast as you can. And so they're trying to control this situation. Everybody else is seeing it as they're just being stingy. But AWSOME, I think she really feels the danger that this presents. And that you really get that from her. And I just love how hard she is. You know, she's this soft, kind of elderly stateswoman kind of person, but she's also just hard as nails when she has to be, and I love that about her character. It's just fantastic. Anyway, she's waiting for Holden. Holden shows up, and they have a talk about what she needs him to do. You kind of see that in the trailer, and then she asks him to go to Illis, which is what I think that's how they pronounce that, which is also called New Terra, which is where these belters from the first scene landed. They're sending a science ship, the Edward Israel, which I thought was a cool name for a ship, which is a science ship, and they're sending that ship to New Terra to try and figure out what's going on there, because they finally got messages from this belter group letting them know that they were there and they were alive, and they were the only ones that they'd heard from so far, from any of the belter ships that made it through that original run on the gate. So we find out that this company has a contract to mine the lithium that's on Illis. And so there's kind of a conflict of interest, there going on, and you kind of get that sense that the people think they already own this place that are going there to take from the belters. That conflict is immediately set up. You can feel the tension that's going to be coming between these two groups and the different ideas. One's looking at it like, this is our home, this is the place we want to live. The belters want to, build something there and live there. And this other group, they just want to come mine it. And you kind of get that real sense of that conflict that always seems to accompany situations in history just like this. So one of the things I like about this show is it really parallels a lot of different things in history and shows that human beings seem to make the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. But I thought that was good. Then we cut to Mars, where Bobby is back on Mars. She's been court-martialed. She's pretty much lost everything. She's basically helping to scrap ships. Then we kind of get a conversation a little bit later with her and another guy that got discharged from the military because of the peace. The militaries aren't as active as they were, other than trying to blockade the ring so that there isn't this crazy rush to go colonize these planets till they can figure out what's going on. And stuff. So, and you can tell she's not happy about it. It's kind of a terrible situation for her, and she's basically just trying to survive it. Then it cuts to Carl. I don't know if this is boring to you guys, but I'm sorry, I don't want to miss a minute of what I just loved it. You see Klaus Ashford. He's on a ship, and he's guarding UN supply ships against Belter pirates and stuff like that. They end up chasing one off. They take the ship out. One of the Belters comes on board and basically accuses him of being a traitor to his people and killing Belters for the inners. And you can tell it gets to him, and he's not happy about what he's being asked to do and what he has to do now. That he's conflicted about this whole situation and stuff like that. I don't know. Me personally, I would look at it very differently, but we'll talk about that later. So then it cuts to Naomi, and she's taking the gravity drugs, which you can tell suck. I mean, for her, Holden's injecting her with these drugs that, she's got a death grip on the chair. It's just, you can tell this is going to be, it's a tough thing for her to do, which is, I don't think why she wanted to do it just to go to the Earth. But she doesn't want to miss out on 1,300 possible, worlds to step foot on. She's never been on a world before, which I can understand that. So then we see that the Behemoth is inside the ring space near the original, the alien space station, and it's been renamed the Medina Station, which I think, good Lord, how many names is this thing going to have? Originally it was the Nauvoo. Apparently the LDS Church doesn't get that back, and now it's a space station. It's basically a fuel port and stuff for getting to the other ring gates. They're setting up communication relays through the other gates, and that's where we see Drummer. She's in command of the station. Ashford goes to the station and stuff, and that's kind of what they're still basically running things together there. Other than the Behemoth's not really considered much of a ship anymore. It's just a space station. Naomi and Drummer talk over the comm, and they have kind of a disagreement about, and it's something you hear in the trailer, that Drummer doesn't like the fact that these Belters are going to these planets to live. She thinks they're better off in space. They're creatures of space. She thinks that by doing this, they'll lose their culture. They'll lose what made them Belters, and she's not cool with that. She thinks that sucks. And Naomi's like, well, shouldn't everybody have the freedom to choose? And you kind of get a sense that Naomi's conflicted. Like, she kind of understands what Drummer's saying, and there's almost this sense of guilt. Like, Naomi feels like, well, it's like she's being judged by Drummer for wanting to go to these worlds. But, you can kind of see it from both sides, but it's just that arrogance and that stubbornness that human beings carry, and just really make things tough on themselves. So as soon as the Rocinante goes through the ring gate, Miller leaves. He just says like, hey, thanks for the ride. Boom, takes off. And, Holden's like, whoa, hey, and gone. And we see him jump into a planet system and basically begin communicating with the proto-molecule in this area. So it was really good. And then you get then it goes back to the Medina Station, and you get a conversation between Ashford and Drummer. This is another one of my favorite scenes, just because some of these lines they deliver. And he says, they're talking back and forth about how Ashford kind of screwed things up going in, and he's like, well, Drummer's kind of like, well, if it wasn't for the fact that my friend's boyfriend had an imaginary friend who was telling him how to shut down this station, I'd have been in the same. And Ashford just like, well, I thought he was crazy, and he turns out to be a prophet, and it's like, and Drummer's like, well, you could be both. just the dialogue is so good in this, so well written. And then we see the shuttle from the Edward Israel gets destroyed on its way down to the planet. Looks like something's shooting holes in it, and it crashes on the planet. And then we get a report from AWSOME, who's telling Holden what's happened. There's a crash. So many people were killed in the landing. The security officer is taking control of the situation there on New Terra, and and this is really classic AWSOME. This line that she says to Holden, she's just like, "Hey, go there. Let the company people do their jobs. Don't let the Belters, recruit you to their cause." She says, "Don't stick your dick in this." And I'm going to swear here, so cover your ears. The situation's already fucked enough. I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm not big on swearing. I don't particularly care for it. I do it because it's one of my problems. But just the way she said, and then Amos is just like, "That's good advice." Oh, just so good. They land the Rosanate. You get to see Naomi come off the ship and enter a planet's gravity for the first time, and you see her. She's walking down the catwalk. She kind of stumbles and trips, and she kind of rights herself and gets back up, and she kind of turns around, and Holden's smiling and she's smiling, and it's just this moment where you can kind of tell they're really happy for each other. He's happy for her having this opportunity. She's happy to be there. It's just kind of a new experience for her. It's probably like a kid getting, Christmas that first time that you can actually remember it. It's kind of a cool moment. So they go find their way to the colony, and then as they're standing there, there's this conflict. Everybody starts pulling guns on each other because the Belters don't want to get taken off the planet. The security guy, you can tell he's just kind of pissy over the fact that people got killed, his people that he was in charge of, and people that I think were his friends. And, they got killed in this, and, he gets injured, his leg's all messed up. And so all of a sudden, as you see in the trailer, there's this black cloud of swarming, nasty little alien tech Chinese throwing stars that come in and attack them while they're standing there with guns pointed at each other, which seems to make that less important all of a sudden, which, you might suspect would be the case. It gets them cut up and stuff like that, and that's the part where you see Holden go over and find one of them, and he picks it up, and he flips it over in his hand, and it kind of makes a sound as he's flipping it, and that's where the episode cuts off. So those are the notes. I freaking love this episode. I'm sure there's more and way better to come, but it just this just reassured me that we are going to get the same quality. It's just I can't tell you how much I love the fact that I can watch this show, and I know some people are going to be irritated that I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it all the same, that it just works. It's science fiction at its best. It really is. It is just fantastic. There is nobody, I don't feel like there's anybody's politics involved in this, and if they are, they're clever about it. And you can watch this show and just enjoy it. You don't feel like you're being proselytized. You don't feel like you're being beat over the head. You just feel like you're getting to watch the coolest freaking science fiction show to come along since the original Star Trek. It really is just that great. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I apologize for the way this is going to come out. Like I said, I'm in the truck this week, but I wanted to review this episode because I've just been so damned excited about doing it. So, and I want to get the discussion started. I want to hear you guys' takes. Let me know what you think. I already see people posting videos for the trailer, you know, for this episode of The Expanse, which I think is hilarious because the people that are posting like it's the biggest thing ever are people who've done nothing but crap on Star Trek for the last, I don't know, 2 months. That's all the videos they can make. Star Wars, pardon me, I think I said Star Trek. Well, they've been doing that too. Nobody's been talking about The Expanse except for me and a few other channels that I've found. But now all of a sudden it's out and woo, thing of the moment. So anyway, and I don't fault them for that. Go check out their content. Be my guest and stuff. Maybe their take will be better than mine. I just know that this is awesome. Let me know what you think. What was your favorite part of the episode? Do you feel like I'm feeling? Like, hey, this is just going to get better from here on in. The sky's the limit. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and let's get more people into The Expanse because, hey, let's face it, we need to expand The Expanse. Shameless plug. I know. I'm sorry. Lord, I apologize. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Hopefully the next time I do one of these, it's going to be a few days. I'll be home, and I can sit down and give you guys pictures and kind of go through the episode in greater detail. But I was just excited, and I wanted to start the conversation tonight. So anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye now.